3, 2.
Peace, family. Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger. We're back. This is After Notes part 3. We've had a little delay, but it's all good. And we're here today on Friday, which is the best of days. Well, before we get into that and talk more with our guest, I would like to ask our guest, who is Brother Student Mr. Carlos Muhammad. Sir, there was a celebration for Brother Willie Wilson in D.C. lately.
Yes.
And the Honorable Louis Farrakhan was there, and you were there.
Yes, sir.
Look, what is it like to be in the presence of giants like that?
Man, let me tell you something. The relationship between the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and Reverend Willie F. Wilson, who just passed the torch from being the senior pastor of Union Temple Baptist Church on to his daughter, the Reverend Anika Wilson Brown. When you're with them,
Yes.
It's always something special. For those of us that know the history, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was invited to Pastor Wilson's church way back in 1978.
Yes, sir.
Just a year after the minister, as he's pointed out, was a very critical time in his life, personally, in rebuilding the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And just 1 year into that, he was invited to Union Temple, which caused great problems for Pastor Wilson. About 400 members left.
Wow.
But Pastor Wilson kept going strong, and so did the relationship grow and become stronger over the years. So I close with that when they're together at any function that is in respect to Reverend Wilson, something always big happens. So many major things has happened over the years when the minister spoke at the church,
Yes.
where it may be looked at, oh, this is just a church service, but
Exactly.
major things came out, and it seemed to always line up that the minister was getting ready to go do something
Right,
major, whether
right.
coming back into the country,
noticed that.
leaving the country.
I noticed that.
But I would say that being with them and watching them come in,
Yes.
this is real black royalty.
Come
man.
on
I
now,
mean,
come
ain't
on.
no doubt about it. And the culture and the expression and the two brothers together, a Muslim and a Christian, showing the real unification of God and the religions. You just can't get no better than that.
Allahu Akbar. You know what, brother? You don't know what you're going to ask. And now you opened something up for me when you made mention of his daughter. Now you mean to tell me, listen up, a woman is going to preach in a church? And before you go into that, Mother Khadijah Muhammad, dealing with the women for a minute. Go ahead. She was there.
Yeah. And to see, and matter of fact, to first start with Mother Farrakhan and the minister,
Right.
to have been with them over the weekend and just watch them youthful because of the Spirit of God,
Radiant.
but the youthfulness
Yes.
that comes when two people are in love.
Yes, sir.
And I mean, they look like two little teenagers in love, and they were showing us the beauty of what true love looks like as a married couple for over 60 years now. And, I just thank Allah to see them as an example. And when you think of what Pastor Wilson did, he said it was very difficult to name a successor.
Right.
And the Honorable Minister said, at an injunction to us as ministers, see, it's hard to choose a successor.
Yes, sir.
He said, but it's easy when you gave yourself the position. But you cannot choose a successor when you did not put yourself in the
Listen
position.
to this.
And so in that sense, who better to carry the legacy on of Willie Wilson than his own flesh and blood, in the sense of his daughter that has the same spirit of him and her mother, Sister Mary Wilson, and our First Lady, Mary Wilson, and someone that not only knows the vision, but can take the vision there, but then also bring her unique quality that God gave her. And so I think that brings a level of comfort to him, who has labored, who has suffered, who has worked hard to build Union Temple in that part of Washington, D.C. up from nothing into a very valuable force in the community. And I think that the church and the community as a whole and the congregation is in good hands. But this is the spirit of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who taught us that a nation can rise no higher than its woman. So though there are misunderstandings in scriptures and misunderstanding in interpretations,
Yes, sir.
the woman has to have the rightful place that God gave her, and that is as a teacher. And we're taught that the woman and the mother is the first teacher.
Natural teacher.
And matter of fact, at that stage of our development, she's God.
Think about that.
Because we don't know God yet.
Think about that.
But we know who to cry for, and we know that consolation that only a mother can bring. And so it is with now the transition that will take place. But as the minister said, you can't retire.
Right.
Not as a servant of God until God calls you back.
Mm-hmm.
So he said that who better now to teach and train revolutionary ministers for the gospel than a man like Willie Wilson, that all that desire to want to be that, who better to go to and be trained by a master teacher like Willie Wilson.
Wow. Listen, I wasn't planning on being here for like a half an hour, but you done opened up some more stuff here, brother. Now, recently you've been doing a series on relationships, and you made mention of love. A lot of people hear the word love and they really think lust. They think in the backseat of a Chevy, pardon, I'm not trying to be vulgar, but that's the real deal of how people think. But from what you've learned from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, define love.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has caused us to see and understand that most times when we're using the word love, as he puts it, we don't know what we're talking about. And we've made a mess of the word love.
Yes.
He said, but love is a noun, yes, but love is also a verb.
Okay.
So true love is attached to duty.
Yes.
Such as the truth of God is attached to action.
Wow.
So when you say you love someone or you love a thing, then you just can't say it out of your mouth. That's what we lean on. Oh, I love you. But the action that should follow if you truly love someone or something, the demonstration is what shows us whether or not it's real. And so you can learn to love bad things, but I'm keeping it in terms of the true love and the essence of love that comes from God. Allah says in the Quran that he created man and woman from one single essence. In the Arabic is nafsan wahida, or the one essence of the soul.
Yes, sir.
And so we should never see each other as male and female, as one over here or one over there, but God created us from one single essence. And so this duty is the thing that's missing.
Okay.
We say a whole bunch of love, and we may even associate love with a feeling. But the real question is, if we love, what are we doing? And so relationships in America and society, as we see, are on a decline. The evil and the indecency that has now become the order of the day in marriages and in households and in the relationship between male and female, and the order of how God wanted the male and female to be helpmeets of one another has been totally disturbed by Satan in his world. But guess what? That is the beauty of Islam.
Yes, sir.
That is the beauty of having the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan as rightly guided ministers, imams, teachers, they all of that wrapped up in one to show us who live and have been destroyed by this decadent society how to become decent, respectable, and God-fearing, God-centered people once again.
How can you not love it, man?
Come on now.
You know, for those who are listening, we thank you for tuning in, and we remind you today is Friday, and to be exact for the records, beloved, it's the 8th of November 2019. Just wanted to delve into the best of days. We made mention this is Friday, Juma, the best of days. If you could delve into that, according to the Quran, as to how that.
Well, as Muslims, I would start first by saying each religion has its way of devotion.
Yes, sir.
In this acts of devotion in regards to a sanctity or day for prayer. And for the Muslims, it is what is traditionally called Friday, but in the Arabic, it is Yawm al-Jum'ah. It is the day of Jum'ah. Jum'ah coming, meaning to gather, the gathering. And so there's a chapter in the Quran, I believe the 62nd chapter of the Quran, where Allah establishes this day as a day of remembrance for him. So, O you who believe, hasten to the call of Allah when it is sounded on Friday, some of the translations say. And this is to tell us to leave off traffic, to leave off business, to leave off all dealings and rush to the place of prayer, so that we could come together as a ummah,
Yes.
or as a community of believers that now come and put aside everything for a moment to give praise and worship of Allah. So the best day is the day of Jummah. Thus, as in Islam, the best month is the month of Ramadan.
Yes.
And then the best night in Islam is contained within that month, called Laylatul Qadr, or the night of majesty, or the night of decree, when the Quran and the spirit of Allah came down to Muhammad, peace and prayers be upon him. But guess what? Ramadan comes around once every cycle a year. Laylatul Qadr, if we're blessed to be within that month, comes around once a year. But the best day, it's a recurring happiness.
Yes.
It's really a recurring Eid, if you
Yes,
will,
yes.
comes around each and every week. And this is why when we're blessed to see the day of Jummah again, then we rush to it. And those that may be looking, you kind of see that we're still in the place of the Musalla of the mosque and on Friday. But this is the best day. But we thank Allah to be once again present on the day of Jummah.
Praise be to it. Now, I'm excited for you because you're about to head that way. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you're speaking of Umrah.
Yes.
Yes. Inshallah, in the month, the last part of the month of December, going into January, inshallah, we're scheduled to travel to the city of the Prophet, Medina, as well as to the holy princes and the city of Mecca, to perform the rites of Umrah, which is minor Hajj, or some of the steps of the Hajj that is performed outside of the season or the month of Hajj, Dhul al-Hijr, which also comes around once a year for a specific time, space, and reality. So alhamdulillah, I'm looking forward. The Honorable Minister gave me a blessing to go, and thank Allah to be gearing up, and thank all of the believers that have helped in this process, as well as Brother John Adax, who will be accompanying me from Mosque number 6, and also joining on to my brother in struggle, my fellow student imam, Brother Eric Muhammad, in Houston, Texas, and the mighty believers of Masjid Ruhuddin under Dr. Imam Wazir Muhammad. We're going to go and do our rites, inshallah, and I will take all of the believers, the nation, and all of those that are part of me, that have made me, and are still making me with me. And I pray to Allah that we will come back safely and share the experience and inspire, and then be in a position to help those to go when Allah invites them.
Allah Akbar. You know, I don't think there's too many people listening that don't know that you're an archivist, a historian, etc. And there are some who still linger under the improper notion that Malcolm X went there before the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad did.
Well, according to Malcolm's own testimony in his autobiography, he was invited to travel overseas in 1958. In fact, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad himself traveled to the Middle East, Africa, as well as Turkey and other places. He left on November 10th of 1959 and returned January 6th of 1960. And but prior to that, Malcolm X was invited to attend a conference in Africa, which would have also allowed him to visit Mecca, but he did not go because he did not want to enter into the holy city of Mecca ahead of his teacher. And so that was the reality, which brings us to the issue. Malcolm was very knowledgeable of Mecca, because to be traveling in the world at that time outside of America, as studious as Malcolm X was, you best believe that whatever cities he desired to go to on the trip, or was invited to go, wherever he was landing, he knew about their language, he knew about their culture, he knew about their currency, he knew about their ethnicity, he knew about all of that. Malcolm X was not the type of student that was just going to get on a plane and go overseas and just get hit with those realities. So for him in 1964 to have made the Hajj, and to come back and say that in many cases that he was like, oh my goodness, I did not expect to see what I saw. I saw white Muslims and the bluest of blue eyes and the blondest of hair all together we would have to go back and say that Malcolm was very much aware that there were Muslims of all different ethnic backgrounds and all different shades of hair and eye color that are Muslims and would be performing such a pilgrimage.
Okay.
That's just a fact.
Yes, sir. And that's what we want. We want facts because, people get caught up in conjecture and controversy and hearsay. And I remember back in the day, old folks would say, don't believe nothing you hear and half of what you see.
Yeah. But if I could add
Go
something,
ahead,
though.
go ahead.
See, isn't it something, and you've been with the minister for a long time, well before I even jumped on the
Make me
journey
sound
myself.
old,
No,
man.
but you've been, I'm using this as
Yes,
the
sir.
historical notation.
I understand.
The minister was saying these things throughout this 40-year process, and the point that I'm making is the minister was saying that it's easy to follow Malcolm
Okay.
in his nationalism
Wow.
and to lift him up for all of those that do it then and are continuing to do it. It's easy. But the thing that you reject about Malcolm is the very thing that made Malcolm who he is, and that's the fact that Malcolm was a Muslim.
Yes.
So you like Malcolm's activism, but you diss his religion.
Okay.
But it was the religion and the belief in Allah.
Right.
See, and following a principle set of revelation that made Malcolm great and made Malcolm the man that he is. So if you really, we're going back to love now. If you really love Malcolm X,
Right. Say it.
then why don't you benefit from that which made Malcolm little, Malcolm big, and that's Islam.
Yes.
Why don't you accept the religion of Malcolm? Therefore, you could get the discipline of Malcolm and the blessings that Malcolm got for being a believer in Almighty God, Allah. But I just wanted to bring that up,
brother,
that we love to talk about Malcolm, but most times we shun Malcolm's religion.
Yo, brother, and you hit on it again. Malcolm was a student's student, and when you made mention of how he would venture or travel off into different nations, I like the way you put that, because most of us, myself included, I might be so excited I'm going to another land, I wouldn't even think to look up the currency, etc. But let's segue into this word force, because I believe today your topic at the khutbah, or your khutbah, dealt with the remembrance of Allah being the greatest force. Elaborate on that.
Well, we know that according to what Allah says in the Quran, He says, if it was not for your prayers, I would not even know that you exist. So remember me and remember me much. So this word dhikr, remembrance, and we understand from the Arabic language, there's a thing called dhikrullah akbar.
Okay.
And this is the remembrance of Allah is the greatest of forces. Because to remember God at a time when you're pinned in trouble, seems to be natural.
Yes, sir.
But to remember God just because is great. Because what that does is it says no matter what's going on, good or bad at the moment, Allah blesses us to lean our minds on Him, to remember Him. And He says, remember me. Because if you remember me not, you may forget yourself. So when we think of that prayer, as we were saying in the khutbah, that we say often, I've been greatly unjust to myself. Who naturally wants to be unjust to themselves?
Right.
Well, we do things or we get distracted by things that bring faults or show the fault within the self that Allah, through our submission to Him, is covering and perfecting. But the only way to get there is we have to remember Him. Isn't it something we remember the things naturally that look like it's going to benefit us?
Right.
Nobody has to tell us that it's payday. We get direct deposit. We looking at 12:05, midnight. Or if we got to pick our check up, nobody has to tell us where to go get it.
No doubt.
Why? We remember that because it's beneficial. But who's more beneficial than the one that allowed us to wake up again?
Yes.
And to be in our right state of mind? Or to wake up again, though we may have challenges, yet we got another day to work the challenges out, only by His permission. So I thank Allah for allowing us to remember Him. The moment that we call His name, regardless, He allowed us to do it. Because there may have been times that we should have called his name and we didn't until a certain point. But even then, he still allows us to reflect back on, only had I remembered Allah then. But he's letting us know, I still love you and have so much mercy on you. Wow. You remembered when I allowed you to remember so that you could glorify and praise me. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says something in a tweet. It says, as Muslims, we say all praise is due to Allah. We constantly recite that verse of Surah Al-Fatiha, the opening chapter. All praise belongs to Allah. So he raised that question. Then why are we always trying to steal a little bit of the praise?
Right. Think about that.
Well, I said, we've all done it, but such a beautiful thing to come back to know and understand that only Allah deserves praise and worship.
I love it. As we begin to wind down, you touched on beneficence and mercy, and these are, from my understanding, these are attributes.
Yes.
Now, is he limited to these two? And elaborate on those two and then go a little further.
Well, he's not limited. He's unlimited in how he displays these qualities and characteristics. However, when we look at Allah's compassion and mercy, his beneficence, his good, and his mercy, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, he says in the Quran, his mercy far exceeds his wrath.
Thank goodness.
So though he has an aspect of wrath with him and can bring it, when he brings it is justified, because trust me, he gave you all the mercy that we deserve, but obviously the mercy wasn't enough to keep us attached to him, so he brings his wrath, or he brings his chastisement down. So he's not limited. Matter of fact, he has so much love, compassion, and mercy for that which he created that whenever we submit to him, he just can't help himself but to give us the mercy no matter how flawed we are. And so our way to the eventual perfection is to follow the commandment of Allah and bask in his mercy, because in the Quran he says that when his supplicant or when the believer supplicates him, he answers all their supplications. You can't get no better than that. The thing is, have you tried Allah lately? Have you tried God lately? I know you've texted. I know you DM'd. I know you and made a phone call. I know you and shared all you could share with somebody trying to get relief and an answer to your problems. But I would say, since all of that has failed, then seek refuge in Allah. Seek the guidance, the unequaled guidance of Allah that my leader, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, said is unequaled in guidance. Try that out, and maybe we'll fare better.
As we wind down, I think we might have one more question, and then after that, you might want to make some announcements. It's up to you. But going back to being greatly unjust to yourself, I mean, I can speak for me, Brother Carlos. I've done things, and your nature pretty much tells you what you're about to do is out of order.
Yeah.
It seems like there's some kind of voice, not to be spooky, but something happens inside the mind sometime to talk us into doing something that will make us feel unjust to ourselves.
Yeah, this is the nafs in Arabic. Nafs is soul, the self. Yeah, it's the essence of how God speaks, and it is the thing that is the jihad. It's the real war with the self.
Yes, sir.
Because there are aspects of the self that battles other levels of it. So you have a part of the self that is attracted to wrong because the shaitan makes evil fair seeming.
Okay.
This is called amara.
Teach.
But then there is the thing that you're talking about that Allah gave us. It is the self that speaks. It's the God within, the messenger of God that acts like a messenger of God that speaks to us. And this is the nafs and lawama. And this is the part, the self-accusing lawama, is self-accusing spirit. See, so this is the voice that comes up when the amara is in works. Oh, I just ate. But man, I just saw that commercial. And man, I want to go out. Now, the self-accusing spirit says, but you ain't even hungry. You
Right.
And so the more we hush that up, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan said, it's like killing the voice of the messenger of God within. And what would be the penalty for killing God's messenger?
Think about
So
this.
Allah blessed the human being with checkmate system. That when we're striving to please him, the unjust thing that we do for ourselves is to deny the very principle and actions that allows us to guard against the evil. I'm not on my prayers as I should.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to think, oh, we're not perfect in that regard. It can happen.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what?
Mm-hmm.
The mercy is we remember that.
Yes.
Man, that prayer went by and the feeling comes up.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so busy. But the duality is there. But Allah called you for prayer. See, that's to show us the struggle within the self. And as long as that voice is there to help guide us away from what we want, that goes against what Allah is requesting, then there's a chance for us to even come out of being unjust. Why? By confessing the fault. Allah, forgive me. I meant to make that prayer. And he knows you sincere.
He's listening, right?
He's listening. But we feel good. And we go make the prayer. And Allah relieves us of that burden. And so this is the journey of the human being. It's not to walk around all self-righteous and you made your prayers, you're fasting, and people want to let you know. You know, though some of the actions are very outward and can be viewed, most of what we do as the individuals are secret. Right? I make my prayer, but you don't go around, I told Allah or I asked Allah in my prayer. I just asked Allah for $1 million. You know what I mean? That's foolish. Or we're fasting. You go around, no, I'm fasting, right? It's for the glory of God, and it's for the benefit of the self. So that voice is a mercy, it's a blessing. And without it, we would not have what we need to know what we should be striving for and what needs to be fixed. Man, we're works in progress. You know?
I know I am.
And I am too. So we all are, that's why we say I've been greatly unjust in myself. Right? But have we confessed the fault? See, for none can grant protection against faults but thee.
None.
See? Oh Allah, protect me from my craziness. Or my lack of duty, or the thing that I should have been doing. And Allah is so merciful to us, and that's why we strive to be better each day that we're afforded to be better.
I love it.
Yes, sir.
Well, family, you've been listening to After Notes, and normally we're not here on Fridays, but Brother Carlos is about to go out of town and take care of some business. Give us an update on that.
Well, inshallah, this weekend, November 10th and 11th, I'll be in the city of Chester, Pennsylvania. Big original salute to Student Minister Keith Muhammad and all of the mighty believers of Chester, Pennsylvania, and the surrounding areas of Wilmington, Delaware, and Philadelphia. But we're going to be there tomorrow, inshallah, for a banquet, but also an archive display from Nation of Islam Archives, as well as on Sunday, inshallah, we'll be continuing our message on the duty of a civilized person to teach and talk to the community on behalf of our leader and teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I thank Allah for my brother, Brother Isaiah Muhammad, who will be in Baltimore, Maryland. He will be the keynote speaker this Sunday at Mosque number 6 while I'm in Chester. So come on out, because he get ready to expose the bloodsucker of the poor, the one without, the one within, all of it.
Wow.
He's such a beautiful brother, and I can't wait to hear what Allah blesses him to say on Sunday. So if you're in Baltimore, come on out to Mosque number 6, 3306 Garrison Boulevard. And if you're in Chester, Pennsylvania, you come on out. Check our Instagram page at NOI Archives. NOI Archives. Follow us. All the information is there. But thank you so much for having your brother. And looking forward to another episode of
After Notes.
Yes,
Allahu Akbar. Family, thank you for listening. May Allah God bless you all as we greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.